Welcome to the video on Code of Ethics for Medical Interpreters. This section is one of my favorites just because it really defines who you are as an interpreter. If you can follow these standards or the common values of the Code of Ethics, you will be an excellent interpreter. This is what you'll fall back on if you have any questions or concerns about making an ethical decision. This is a brief overview. We'll go into much more detail in class, examples, role play. However, I wanted to give you a brief overview before I see you in class. So the 7 common values are accuracy, advocacy, confidentiality, cultural competency, impartiality, professionalism, and respect. You may have noticed that when you looked over the IMIA and the NCIHC as well as the CHIA, the 3 different codes of ethics that are currently in the nation that are common, these concepts are all common in all 3 of those. And so that's why we're going to use these as our common values that we can hold ourselves to. Okay, let's start with talking about accuracy. So this is accurately conveying the content and spirit of the message by using the most effective mode of interpreting. It's important to also consider cultural context. So this is interpreting accurately, meaning for meaning, not word for word, meaning for meaning. Even if it seems rude, it's a swear word and you don't feel comfortable saying it, it is interpreting exactly what is said, meaning for meaning, without changing, omitting, or adding to. Okay? An example of accuracy would be a patient is using some vulgar language, and you think to yourself, well, I can use similar language that's still really strong, but it's not as strong because I don't like saying the F word. So I'm just going to say something that is showing the doctor that he's still upset or he's still not happy. Well, the issue with this is if this patient had a head injury and started swearing since the head injury, that's a symptom of the head injury. And if all of a sudden the speech is not as harsh, the doctor may think, oh, the patient's getting better. This is good news, right? When in reality, you're just not comfortable saying a swear word, which you would need to. Even if I don't personally swear, but I do when I interpret if I have to. I haven't done that often, but if I ever needed to, I would. Advocacy. Interpreter will engage in patient advocacy when the patient's health, well-being, or dignity is at risk. So advocacy is done on behalf of the individual to support good health outcomes. Okay? Advocacy can be many different things. One such example, and it's not even a very serious matter, but for example, a patient needed to come to visit or needed to get her labs drawn. She had come all the way out to a clinic that was pretty far from her home. There is a clinic closer to her home, but the specialist wasn't there. And so the doctor says, you'll need to come back to this clinic to do a lab test. You need to do a lab test in 3 days. We'll need you to come back out here. And the patient had previously stated that the drive was long and that it was really hard to get out here. And so I paused the interpreting session. I said, this is the interpreter speaking. May we let her know that she is able to use the laboratory or the lab that's part of our university clinics that's close to her home, so she doesn't have to drive all the way out here. And the doctor said, oh yeah, absolutely, that's a great idea. That's a type of advocacy that is not really, would the patient, would her dignity be his or her dignity be at risk, or their well-being, their health? Maybe the drive is effective or affecting them, but it's something you can do to advocate for the patient because the patient may have a better health outcome that way, maybe a better experience with the clinic, right? Confidentiality. So maintain confidentiality at all times with all assignment-related information within the treatment team. Within the treatment team means anybody who is taking care of that patient at that moment or that will be taking care of that patient, okay? Inside the same red or the same network. So University of Utah doctor to University of Utah doctor. If, once again, they're at risk of harm or danger, you would break that confidentiality and you would tell them. But confidentiality means not saying anything that to anyone that doesn't need to know. This could be as simple as you go outside of the appointment room, and while you finished up before the patient's getting dressed, you're leaving out to the waiting room, and the family member sees you and says, "Oh, how did it go? What did they find? What's going on?" Even though the patient may tell them everything anyways, it is not your place to tell them anything. You will have to tell them, "I am sorry, I cannot share what occurred, but if the patient would like, they can share with you. If your family member would like, they can share with you what happened. I apologize, I cannot share information." Okay? Cultural competency. Continually develop awareness of your own culture and cultures encountered in the professional duties. So this is the culture of biomedicine, the culture of the U.S. healthcare system, the culture of the doctor, the culture of yourself, the culture of the patient. Understanding it enough to be able to be culturally aware. Do you need to understand every single cultural concept that is with every, for example, for me, do I need to know all the cultural norms for Chile, Spain, Mexico, all these different areas? Well, the more I know, the better, but I am not required to know everything. But the more you learn, the more you'll be able to be a cultural navigator, or like we say, it's a cultural broker, to be able to explain culture and help understand and just avoid unnecessary miscommunications. Our next common um, our next common value of the code of ethics is impartiality. So the interpreter strives to remain impartial. Interpreter does not counsel, does not interject personal opinions or advice to the patient. The interpreter does not project personal biases or beliefs. So if a patient is receiving counsel from a doctor about maybe an abortion or maybe birth control, and if that is something that is for you, it's against everything you stand for, and you hate the idea that someone would want to have an abortion or go on birth control. It's against your religion or whatever it may be. That does not matter. You need to remain impartial. You do not counsel them that, you're killing a baby. I hope you know that, right? You're leaving the appointment, you're talking to the patient, like, well, I hope this is a big decision. You'll regret it the rest of your life, right? We need to remain impartial and not have an opinion and not counsel the patient, okay? And then we have professionalism. Professionalism is to act in a professional and ethical manner at all times, according to the standards of the profession. So, this is where you monitor yourself. You make sure that you are recognizing, an example would be to recognize your own limitations, okay? So, if you go to an appointment and let's say it's for a cardiac open heart surgery and they're going to be doing stents and bypass surgery, and this medical terminology is way beyond your capacity, you need to excuse yourself and say, "I apologize, but I am not at a level to interpret this medical terminology, and so to not cause confusion or misinterpret, I need to withdraw." While that is not fun to do, you would need to withdraw. Okay, so don't accept appointments that you know you won't be able to handle. That's another thing. If you understand what the appointment is going to be, don't accept it. I understand that the more appointments you have, the more money you make, or the hospital may have just assigned it to you, but you need to understand your own limitations. Okay, so you need to respect yourself. And lastly, we're talking about respect. What a good segue. So treat all parties with respect. As an interpreter, you must treat everyone with courtesy and dignity. That includes yourself. So that's the patient, the provider, and yourself. Always respect everyone in the room. Um, if a patient says something that you find funny, don't laugh. Hold your composure, be professional and respectful. Okay. That would be an example, is to not laugh when something is said that you find comical, or to, let's see, another example would be respecting somebody's right to make a decision. If that's that they want to have an abortion, they want to go on birth control, you respect their decision and you remain impartial, maintain your professionalism, and you be respectful to their decision. Okay, these all tie together at some point or another, but we'll go into more detail and go over examples so you really understand this as best you can. This is the end of the Code of Ethics for Medical Interpreters. You may have questions on this because it's quite a dense topic. Write your questions down and we'll go over them in class. Thank you.